I'm Taryn Rosenkrantz, and this is Political TrailMix, where strategy meets storytelling, and every episode unpacks the people, power, and politics shaping our country. Let's dig in. Hey, you've got Taryn Rosenkrantz again, and I have another fun guest. Although this one, I have to say, I don't know, Mitch, that we have ever had the pleasure of actually sitting and doing this in person. So we're going to have us do this again. I keep telling this to people who have come on. We're going to have to do this again, actually in person, and do
With
this for
cocktails
real.
involved.
Yes, with cocktails, much better idea. But I have brought yet another fun Democratic political operative on to talk with me today and discuss everything under the sun. This time we're going to talk about everything Pennsylvania because my good friend is here with me today. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are and what you do?
My name's Mitch Cates. I am the executive director of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party. I had been with the party. I did the math recently.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I like this.
This is my second tour of duty. Um, my first tour was in 16 and 17, and then I went back into the field. And then I was asked to come back in the middle of like the 2020 election cycle. So it's been 7 years.
That's
Uh,
great.
yeah, and I
Hopefully you
wasn't
don't have the 7-year itch.
well, but I do miss I miss the action like in the thick of a campaign. I'm not going to lie. And so, like some of the work that I'm doing at the PA Dems is very campaign related and, using strategy that we would use on a campaign. So I've learned a lot about the party mechanisms, but I did campaigns for a very, very long time. So I still have that itch.
Yeah, you kind of get the best of both worlds this way. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, I think we wanted to talk all things Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania in the last 7 years has become probably truly the center of the universe. And you've gotten to be at the center of it. So that's been really fun for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And I have really gotten to have at least a front row seat in the last couple of years as we've worked with you guys. But I would say purple Pennsylvania has really, it's just become more and more purple. And it's really, I wouldn't say that we have anything less at stake this year than we have in the past. It just becomes more and more important. And I just really want to say, I think you guys have done a great job. It's been a lot and it's just never stops. It's the constant battle as you go on because everybody knows how much is at stake at Pennsylvania. So a lot of money going in there. And there's a lot that you guys are up against. I think what do you guys think that you've been doing right there to connect with voters? What do you think that you need to do more of? What do you think we should be doing for it? I mean, just give away the whole thing. No, I'm just kidding. But I do want to say, I do want to kind of think and talk because I think so much is said about looking back. And I actually want you to kind of talk about looking forward because one of the reasons I started this whole podcast and had a bunch of people on is that I want to talk about how we can feel hopeful. And so
Yeah.
I love talking to each week because I feel like we try to be hopeful and we try to find ways to do good work in Pennsylvania. And I want you to share that with others. So,
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is that I can't, and I've said this to you before, Taryn, like we have been doing this a long time, you and I. Not that I'm calling you old, but
no, 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 no. I mean, since we're in our 20s, we've just been saying
right, yeah.
about touch.
Mhm. But from the minute we all started working together, it has been. I love our interaction. I love the work that we're doing together. I don't know if it was the first or the second month when I was looking at some of the draft emails, and I think Cole was the one who sent it, and it started off with, "Let us know if this goes too far." And my response was, "You had me at, does this go too far?" And
Yeah.
it's been that way ever since, like I love the way that you guys really understand what we're not only what we're trying to do, but also, how we roll, so to speak,
Yeah.
especially how I roll. And that's captured in the writing that you guys are doing, that we do together. And I think it's doing a really good job of letting folks know that in Pennsylvania we are not playing games here. We are here to win races, and we know while we can have fun and some of our calls are obviously full of fun and laughter, the work that we're doing is very serious.
Yeah.
I will say that since I've been back in Pennsylvania, because I spent a number of years away when I was doing campaigns in either other states or other countries. Well, since I've been back in Pennsylvania, I have seen mostly positive results at the end of an election cycle.
Yeah.
There were 2 years that we didn't see positive results. One of them was in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was in 2024. In 2016, while we did not win the White House, we did battle it out and won our row offices that year, which is important because Josh Shapiro was on that race.
Yeah.
That's one. And then in 2024, of course, we all were we all got steamrolled. It
Yeah.
wasn't just a Pennsylvania thing for
Not
sure.
at all.
Our silver lining was that we fought it out because here in Pennsylvania, we do not just focus on the top of the ticket, as you know, and as you can see
Yeah.
behind me, our flagship program, Vote Local. We focus all the way down to a local level. And in 2024, one of the things, like we didn't do well, obviously statewide, but we held our majority in the state house, which is super important.
Super important.
And we maintained our numbers for the state Senate. And actually, as we all know, a month or so ago, we shocked the world and picked up a state Senate seat in an R plus 15 district that nobody saw coming. And it was just a lot of grit and hard work and determination that made that happen. And it was done with the cooperation of, us and the Senate caucus worked their tails off, and their campaign was really on it. And some allies too all came in, and I think the Republicans were, kind of, I don't know, they were sleeping at the wheel.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the things that I'll say is, yes, 2016 was not great, and 2024 was awful. But we did really well in 17, 18, 19, and 20. We did well in 21, 22, 23. So while, nobody's happy about 24, that is not going to be the trend, and we're going to do something about it.
Yeah, and I think you guys, I have always been impressed in the fact that you really have built up so much more infrastructure. I mean, some of the state parties have struggled with that, but you really have tried to build up the infrastructure. And I think that's really important. And I think that's how you get more success than you don't, right? Like, and you continue to realize that the day after, it was like right back at it.
Yeah.
Which really makes a difference too, right? Like that's how you keep moving forward. It's like, okay, we're just right back at this as if it's just the next day, right back at work.
Right.
And I love that.
And people know never, and I just had this conversation with somebody earlier today. People know me, but the people that know me and follow me on social or something, they know never to say the words off your election cycle in front of them.
We know.
It is. They're going to hear from me, but there's no
Right.
such thing. Right?
No such thing. There's no such thing.
Right.
We talk about this a lot. There's no such thing. It's just go, go, go. And that's a good thing because it does keep us moving forward. And that's, it's a marathon, and that's important because the only way you keep going is if you keep fighting. I've been talking this a lot because one of the other things that we're doing, and this is why we're talking about hope, is that how do you get involved? Like you're so frustrated. Trump's like every time you turn on the, I was doing this thing at the beginning in the first 100 days where I was like, okay, every time he pisses me off, I'm going to do a plank and then I'm going to be in such good shape. But then I was like, I can't be in a constant plank because A, I'm not that great a shape. And B, like I literally would be in a constant plank, it's like, I really can't do this. You really can't be in a constant plank, just not going to happen. But we do want to know as like people, what can we do? Right? Like, what can we do if we don't live in Pennsylvania? What can we do to help? So like what as like citizens, as good digital citizens, as good citizens in general, like, well, what can we do to help make progress? What can we do to help the like state senator? Like, what is it that we can do? I would never say in an off year, but when we're far away from election day, What is it that is the best thing that we can help to do? And I say that because I kind of know the answer, but I want you to tell people who are listening and who are thinking that and want to know, like, what can they do? Because there is a lot of people who are out there feeling frustrated, and holding a plank isn't going to do anything. Like, what is it that we can do that helps us stay sane and feel like we're doing something?
So the first thing is, and it's a phrase that I learned from one of my old political gurus, old state senator in Boston, Jim Hennigan.
Okay.
And Jim Hennigan, with a very Boston heavy accent, would say, politics is about showing up.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I'll say is you've got to show up, right?
Yeah.
I had I was honored to have been asked to speak at one of those hands-off rallies,
Mm.
the first wave of them a few weeks back. I was asked to speak in Pittsburgh. And, as they held me to the end, which
Yeah.
people that know me always do. And so I was there to whip them. And
Yeah.
so I shared that sentiment. I said, Senator Hennigan used to say politics is about showing up. And there were over 6,000 people there that showed up.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that all over the country. The other thing that I said, which I think is very important, and I posted about it on my Blue Sky page very recently. I did it again. People are saying, "Who's our leader? Who's our leader? Who's going to show up to be our leader?" And my response has been, what I started to say. I said it during that rally. I put it on social. We are the leaders. We, the people, are the leaders we're looking for, right? There's no one person that's going to step up to save us, right? The other side is being led down a path. One person has got everybody following him, and he's taken our country over the cliff, right?
Yeah.
And they're following.
Yeah.
We Democrats,
Lemmings. Yeah.
and one of the things that I find interesting is people are like, well, Democrats aren't all together. Well, we never have been,
We're a big tent party.
yes, it's always been that way. I think people are more anxious about it and maybe more angry about it because of the consequences of when people didn't show up. Because we've all looked at the numbers, Taryn. We know, one of the big reasons why that guy won, because not enough of Democratic voters showed up. Whether it's because they either didn't believe that their vote mattered, which has always been a problem. They were whatever. Everybody had a different reason why they didn't show up. But when you don't show up, that's when bad things happen. And so you have to show up. And part of showing up is helping let people know that you're there, that you care. And that relates to social. Right. There's a lot of social push that's happening, social networking push, all the digital channels. And I highly encourage people to get on Blue Sky because while it's mostly like-minded folks, somebody taught me not that long ago that sometimes you have to preach to the choir so that they know the words to the song.
Right.
Okay? Things that happen on social don't stay on social. They get translated into the field. People are getting their political information from social more than ever. Every year it gets more and more and more important. So there is a very big movement of let's call it the influencer movement that's both have wide bandwidth, but also narrow bandwidth that are all working, together, fighting back. And oftentimes it's on that same message, the fight to save Medicaid, for example, the fight to save public education, the fight to save social, everything else that they're trying to cut. There is a vast movement of folks that are fighting every single day, both virtually and on the ground, showing up to events. I just had a team meeting today, and one of my folks reported that in Perry County, which not that many years ago, there was no active Democratic Party in Perry County, Pennsylvania, had over 250 people show up for a rally.
I love this. Yeah.
Those things matter. The town halls that we've been doing matter. We've been doing them in Republican districts because they're not doing them. We did one that we see is like now other counties want to do it. Folks on my team organized an event up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Instead of it being a town hall, they wanted to do something just a little different. So they launched what we called the Good Trouble Fest, a
Okay.
civic action fair.
Okay.
And it was an interesting report in Slate that came up because a reporter covered it. But first, the reporter was in New Jersey. They covered a Rocana town hall in New Jersey, and then the next night was up in Scranton at our Good Trouble Fest. And they wrote about both of them, and they talked about both of them. But what's interesting is my takeaway from it, and I know I'm
Yeah.
looking at it with jaded glasses. They that reporter appreciated that our, like, when you go to a town hall, you go there to listen and to be heard, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
At the Good Trouble Fest, people went there to get action items. There was
Yeah. To
candy,
like actually, right.
there
It
was
was
candy.
action oriented.
It was, yes, it was action oriented. And one of the things that happened, and it just happened organically, which made it so much better, is some 74-year-old guy walked in and he wanted to just see what this was about.
Yeah.
And he spent a few minutes at our voter registration table with my colleague Kate. And he told her, he's like, I've been a lifelong Republican. I voted for the Republicans in
Yeah.
2024, but I'm not happy with what I'm seeing. And he was really not happy with what he's seeing out of the newly elected member of Congress that got elected. And he
Yeah.
was really pissed off that guy campaigned saying that he wanted to end, members of Congress trading stock. And now he's the most prolific stock trader in Congress.
Mm.
And the New York Times called that out. That really pissed him off to the point where he asked for a form and he changed his voter registration to Democrat right there.
Okay. Right there.
And then there were reporters there and they picked up on it, and he was the lead story in the Scranton News. And the reasoning why he did it, you would think we actually found him and paid him. He was like,
Yeah. That's like
central
felt fake.
question. And it was 1000% organic. That was real. And so that's why I say you have to show up. We
Yep.
have to be out there.
And you won't, and the Republicans are just ignoring these things. And I'm like, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Go focus on Biden and your investigation of the past and go look backwards. That's great. Keep on focusing because, we're guilty of it sometimes ourselves too, right? Like, so as Democrats, but this is great for us to get out there and be in the community and talk about what's going on and how we can help the economy. And I couldn't agree more. I got to tell you, I literally said that yesterday when I was talking to on the Hill panel. They do the Hill panel in News Nation, and they said, "Oh, you're leaderless." The Republican woman was like, "You're leaderless. You're leaderless." And I said, "I don't think being leaderless is a problem when you're this far away from a presidential election. I don't care who's running for president. What I care about is that elected officials are trying to stop him trampling on the Constitution and help get the economy moving and fight for veterans and stop this big toxic bill and protect Medicaid. That's what people care about. The American people care about. And you can tell me the economy is going great. That was your whole argument when we were fighting in 2024. You said, stop saying the economy is going great. That's not what people feel." I go, I can tell you right now, that's not what people feel. You can tell me that the grocery prices are going down, but that's not what people feel. They might be going down from how they went up, but that does not what people are feeling. If they're paying short-term loans on their groceries and gas, that's not what people are feeling. Like, this is not it. But it's who cares if we're leaderless? We're fighting back. We're making ourselves get out there and get heard. And if you remember, like, 2022, any of those times, it's like you aren't paying that as much attention, but Biden still won in the midterms because we tried to keep attention. They're not paying attention. So let
Right.
it.
And I've, throughout my career, I have twice seen voter turnout surpass 95%. Not in this country. I witnessed it in Georgia, where
Okay.
I rushed it from my kitchen for real.
Yeah.
And in this little island country of Mauritius, I was sent over there to do those campaigns. And in both cases, the opposition was
Yeah.
considered to have little to no chance. And in both cases, 95% voter turnout ended up happening. And in both cases, they won.
Yeah.
And it's that, people just don't understand how important it is. Going back to showing up, if you show up and you vote, it makes a difference. Those
Yeah.
election cycles where we weren't happy with the results were all because turnout wasn't what it could have been or should have been, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you kind of think last cycle was the big pain point? What do you think was the biggest pain point?
Oof. Um,
I know you don't have to choose just one.
no, I know. I got to tell you that obviously we had challenges like never before.
Yeah.
Change our
Yeah.
community. Hmm.
The
But honestly, I mean, I felt good about the message that was coming out of it. And I also really believed that comparing two different messages, and one was really extreme, that I had faith that people were gonna like not want the ugliness.
yeah.
And I was proven wrong.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. And there were things that happened like, at a very micro level that you only realized when the dust settled. Like voter registration is a very, very big problem. I've been talking about it for months.
Yeah.
They're doing something about it here in Pennsylvania where we are doing partisan voter registration, that the party's doing it. And interestingly enough, I just saw the Republicans launched a 67 county voter registration program. Where'd they get that idea from? Since
Yeah.
we started it in February. And so voter registration has been a problem.
Yeah.
And here in Pennsylvania specifically, 10 years ago, this election cycle, we had almost a million vote advantage. And that's deteriorated to the point where we're only at about 170,000. And
Mm.
that's a problem. And, a lot of our nonpartisan friends were doing nonpartisan voter reg, and for
Yeah.
different reasons, it didn't work out well. And some of the ones that were, I'll call them pain points, on election day, when we saw long lines at college polling locations, especially like in the Lehigh Valley, when you normally see that in a normal election cycle, you'd say,
Yeah.
this is great, right?
Yep.
It turned out not so great because a lot of those students that thought they were registered found out,
They weren't.
in fact, they weren't. It was either because the
Heartbreaking.
forms weren't filled out properly, or they were filled out so late that they never got keyed in and entered, into the
Yeah.
damn pool. And you don't know those things until it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard a lot of those stories and felt like those were huge things that just and things like you had so many things going against you, the bomb threats in the city, and then who's going to come back and get back in line after you had a bomb threat? Like you're scared. I mean, there's just things like your life, right? Like just let alone the fact that you had to go back to work and life gets in the way and many other things. It just
Yeah.
so many things. And I think what is good out of all of this is that it exposed some of those things, like you said, and you're now able to do some of them as we go forward. And we can try to not, you can't stop the bomb threats per se, but you can fix some of the voter reg stuff, and you can look at some of these things and try to address them. And I think that's the good of this, is that we are trying to find and solve problems. I know for me, like one of the things, and I think we talked about this in one of our calls, but like we, for all of our clients, are trying to do more social media listening, because we felt like some of the issues that were popping up and that were coming up were things that people weren't realizing were being talked about, because they weren't popping up in focus groups and they weren't popping up in polling. But you know where they were popping up? All over social media. And because people were having whole other conversations that were not happening in those places. And that's something we got to address. And that's somewhere that you can't advertise on X, and you can't advertise and you can't change the algorithm if he's controlling it. And so we had to address how we're doing digital advertising differently, how we're talking on social media and how, we can advertise on social media in a totally different way. So how are we going to do this and address that? And I think for me, that's some of the stuff I'm excited about for this cycle. I'm like, I'm going to do things a little bit differently, and there's sort of new frontiers and for us to explore. But what gets you excited about this cycle? What are you thinking about that gets you excited? Are there people or stars aligning? What are the things that are getting you excited about Pennsylvania in this cycle?
Well, maybe it's just because I'm that kind of crazy. I I appreciate being in the state that's as you said, the center of the political universe. And I've always appreciated being a part of something bigger than me or frankly everybody. And when you have three Democratic Supreme Court justices on the ballot, right,
Yeah.
which will have implications for years to come and not just a couple, knowing how high the stakes are, that just, reinforces to me personally that I'm in the right place and that we all need to work together to do everything humanly possible to make sure that we right the ship, stop the billionaire takeover, and then start clawing back. And then
Yeah.
it's next year winning back, getting our governor, Josh Shapiro, reelected, and then winning back those congressional seats that we lost, and maybe finally flipping a couple that we've been trying to for a number of years. I think I think we are becoming more and more on the right side of history, so to speak, and really are going to be aligning more with what people really care about.
Mhm.
We get accused of not focusing on that, but the Republican Party or whatever it's called now, what they're doing is destroying people's lives. Not even a little, but a lot.
Yeah.
And folks can blow smoke and like you said, tell everything's great.
Yeah.
But when they're feeling it, when they lose their insurance, and like they can't feed their
Student loan isn't being processed. Yeah. Yeah.
when Social Security starts running late or Medicaid, all of the things that they're slashing and burning, and while the orange guy is telling you everything's great. I saw in the news this morning that ironically, a doll that costs like $20 is going to be $35 or even more than that in Target or one of those stores, and
Right. Right. Right.
have real impact on people when they start paying attention to like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
this is really bad,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And so and the other thing that I feel encouraged by is that I'm seeing people showing up. I'm seeing
Yeah.
people showing up. And
I
and
think
I
those
also know
numbers
that
you
we
shared.
got into what's that?
I said those numbers you shared, like 6,000 at a hands-off rally, 200 at a party that didn't exist. Those are the kinds of numbers that warm your heart. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So I know as the, state party executive director, do you like share like tips and tricks and hacks with other EDs?
Oh yeah. One of the things that I really frankly love about this position, well, there's a lot of things I don't love. And
That's
there's
for
a lot of
another
things
day.
and there's things that I miss being in the middle of a fight. But I'm just in the middle of a fight in a different way. But I absolutely value the camaraderie that I have with other EDs around the state and also state chairs. You
Yeah.
know, we have a signal thread that all the EDs are on, and people ask sometimes very simple questions. They share things. It's something that it reminds you. And I just came back from the ASDC meeting, which is the Association of State Democratic Parties. Uh, we had a meeting with all the EDs, and as I said in that meeting, and I say it all the time, they're like a family.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that as tough a job as this is, and it's not easy, it's not for the faint of heart, but we're not doing it alone. And
Yeah.
that's important. And so that part, the mental health side of things, is very important. On the strategic side of things, the good news is people all always looking for like new ideas or what are you doing, what worked well, all even at the tech side of things, right? Or hey, what vendor are you using to do, email fundraising?
Right. And yeah, and it's always me. Great.
What
Perfect.
did you, it's always, yeah. And so recently in the last couple of months, I've had quite a few meetings, Zoom meetings with some of my colleagues in other states about our Vote Local program.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's
I
great.
certainly talk about it a lot, and they want to know more about it because it really, it is really important. And
Absolutely. And effective.
yeah, it was, something that I started in Florida, and it started with just a couple of counties, and now it's our whole statewide program. But it is giving all of our counties a fighting chance,
Yeah.
and especially in the rural counties who know that their job in essence is to reduce the loss margins, but also win local races, and they have. We're giving them the tools to be able to go out there and do real work and have real conversations and leave good professional, collateral behind that has all of the candidates on it.
And it's such a like it's so important. That's how you win big. That's how you win big as you start there. Huge
So I'm
fan.
hoping that, and I said it in a meeting in front of everybody, and I did a training with all the EDs last year. Our digital director Lenore and I have been doing this forever, and I said, copy it, steal it, like
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the idea that there might be a Vote Local Oklahoma and a Vote Local North Carolina and a
Oh,
Vote
wouldn't that be great?
North
Yeah.
Dakota, those things are hopefully coming, and we're going to help let them be successful.
Yes. And huge shout out and love to Lenore. There has to be a moment for that here.
We have to do that.
All right, my kind of last question before I always end the same way, but my kind of final question here, I'm going to combine two. I want to have a favorite story. You're missing the campaign trail here, so I want your favorite story from the campaign trail, and then if somebody was gonna get into politics, what would you say to them? What would be your best advice to them?
So, that this is the question. The first one was the one that's hard because
Yeah, yeah.
I've been doing this for a couple of dozen, a couple of decades, and there are certainly big and small stories. I could tell you the story of when my candidate's name was Charlie Justice, and absolutely wrapped the flag around him, and I turned our campaign into the Justice League. And one of the things that people in
I love it.
Florida like to do is do sign waving in traffic.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I hated that, but I said, fine, we're going to do it. We set up shop on the busiest highway in Tampa, Dale Maybury and Kennedy, I think it is, at rush hour on a Friday. And everybody had to wear a superhero costume. And one of the guys that was wearing a Superman costume was who ended up working in Nassau a couple of years later. But that's one. Dumpster diving with volunteers to get yard sign stakes is, people love doing that. It's weird what they did. But I think the best story to tell, and I have a prop for it too, is when I worked in Georgia, the country of, and
Yes.
we were running against the government, Western supported. And so I learned a lot in that year away that I was in. One of the things that I learned was that in previous elections, you know how you dig into the deep, whatever data you have, show me.
Yeah.
I'm looking at like a previous election result, and I see that the opposition did really well on this one precinct on one side of the village. And over the other side of the village, they lost by 110%. I repeat that, 110%. And the US government, as part of the coalition of governments, said, yeah, that's cool. And they blessed it, right? And so I learned that the reason why they were getting away with crap like that is there wasn't anybody at those polls. The
Uh,
opposition parties, never had enough resources to have people everywhere. They could only have them in certain places. And so that part of the effort in this campaign was to just keep building, more and more and more and more volunteers or whatever. And it was a long, protracted battle. And the other challenge that I had was that I couldn't get anything produced in the country of Georgia. Because if somebody did like literature for me,
Fascinating.
the government would find out, and the next day they would shut the business down and throw them in jail. Full stop. And so I had to go very rogue to the point where I didn't even tell people in my campaign.
Yeah.
The work I did in a previous life, I knew manufacturing in other countries. And so I was literally having things manufactured in China, Turkey, Armenia, and they were being smuggled into the country, literally in packages that like had flowers on top and underneath it was literature or DVDs or something. And one of the things that I was able to smuggle in from Turkey, and I didn't let anybody on the campaign know, only my tiny little team. I built my own little, and I was there to run the big coordinated of 19 different parties, but half of them didn't want me there. So nobody was work. So I just started a campaign underneath the campaign. And even a lot of my American colleagues who were, signaling in or not signal or whatever, Skyping in, I didn't say anything about this, but I was able to get the funds, and it wasn't a lot of money because they were like $3 each. And I had a designer to do the work. When it was shipped, I had them hidden in a basement underground until the night before the election. And then the night before the election, these cars, it's right out of the movie, Taryn, came driving into the basement. We opened the trunks. We put these cases into the trunks. And I told my translator, tell them what to do. I instructed them to take these all across the country. There were 3,500 polling locations. And at each polling location, give 2 of these to 2 volunteers and tell them any questions that they get. All they have to say is, I don't know. Okay. So the other thing I'll tell you in a backdrop to that before I show you the prop is in elections, foreign elections, they have election observers, right? The NATO or the UN or all these different agencies and NGOs do these election observers. Well, I knew there were going to be about 200 or 300 international election observers, but there were 3,500 polls. And I wanted to find a way to prevent the government from stuffing a ballot box because there wasn't any coverage.
There wasn't anyone there.
So I ordered enough of these items. I made sure that the color of those items could not be confused with either our campaign, which was blue, or the government's campaign, which was red. So I chose bright orange.
There you go.
And what was shipped in the middle of the night that nobody knew about were T-shirts that were in Georgian and English.
Ah.
That said election observer.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the day, my colleague who was monitoring communication around the world said, hey, Mitch, get in here. And I went into our boiler room and I'm like, what's up? He's like, dude, your T-shirts are freaking out the entire world. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The U.S. government thinks it's the Georgians doing it. The Georgians think it's the U.S. government. Was wondering nobody knew who these people were. And then my team is laughing. I'm like, what's up? They're showing me there's a news report and there's a reporter with a microphone in front of some volunteer wearing this shirt. And the person just kept saying, I said, what are they talking? And they're saying, all he keeps saying is, I don't know. I don't know. And so it literally, Taryn, this cost me like $5,000 or something because these were really cheap. It was very, very cheap money. But it caused everybody to like get stunned, and the government couldn't stuff ballot boxes. And
he couldn't cheat, and thereby you won.
Now they tried to like give false results on TV that night, but we were able to stop that too, and that's another long story. But we ended up as I was asked, I went to an expats bar after the election, and I always wore like khakis and Merrell hiking shoes and a black top. And a friend of mine introduced me to an American who was like former Army and married a Georgian and lived in the country. And he said, what branch did you serve in? And I'm like, I didn't serve. He's like, well, what do you do? And I thought about it for a second. I said, I overthrow governments. I just do it differently than you do it.
Same idea, different
idea. But it was the very first free and fair election in the history of the ancient country of Georgia that saw a 95% turnout, and not one brick was thrown, not one car.
No violence. Yeah.
No violence, no fires, no fists.
And 95% of people turned out to do it. That's great.
Showed up.
So you can make change without violence. Look at that.
That's right. Well, that's why, look it up there. My North Star in the background there is John Lewis.
Oh, there you go. Make good trouble. I love
Not
it.
nonviolence. That's
I
correct.
love it. All right. I ask everyone to leave me with their 2026 midterm prediction, not projection. Well, I guess
Well, you wanted me to tell you what I would advise
oh yeah,
somebody.
yeah. Oh, I forgot that. I'm sorry. I did. I cut you off. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, no.
I was
Well, I
very
rambled
inspired by the overthrowing of governments without
on.
violence that I forgot.
And I rambled on.
That might be the advice.
Yeah.
Overthrow a government without violence. Just kidding. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
or my motto, like Goonies never say die. But
Yes.
um,
Who needs
No,
never say die? That would be it. Yeah.
I give the advice that nobody gave me when I first started doing this, which when I mean, I volunteered for years and then I ran for local office and I lost by 45 votes. And that just pissed me off. And that's what led me to doing this. But back then, when I did run for office, I didn't know anything. I helped on campaigns for a long time, but I never ran for office. And so I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I started doing a training years ago. It's the one I do mostly. It's called Walk Before You Run. And the first slide of Walk Before You Run is all about the kind of like personal audit. Number
Mm,
one, make sure you have family buy-in. Number two, make sure you have professional buy-in. If you work somewhere, you need to make sure that the people you work for, if it's for, are okay with you running for office. And
mm.
then all other kinds of like you need to research things before you decide to pull papers. I think the first thing that candidates need to know is the truth, what it means to run for office for real, not just to put your
Yeah.
name out. And so a lot of self-reflection and doing a little bit of research before you dive head first in is what I would give for advice.
I love that. I
And
love
then my
that.
prediction for 2026
Yes.
is that we are going to take back the House and Congress, that we are going to show the country that Democrats stand up and fight for them, that we will stop the chaos to the best of our ability until we really can boot that guy out of there,
Yeah.
because we have to.
Yeah.
Because although some people say that, well, when you say democracy, people don't understand that. Well, as they are continuing to lose rights at a rapid click, think about this. We're only like 100 and some odd days in here, folks.
Yeah.
They're going to appreciate a little bit more and more what we mean when we say, the future of our democracy is in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And so we just have to keep showing up. We need to keep speaking up and we need to keep fighting back. And it starts at the very, very local level and it trickles upwards. And the post that I did on Blue Sky the other day, and I kept having a friend of mine, I said, dude, take me a photograph because he takes really beautiful outdoor photographs.
Yeah.
Take me a photograph of some ripples in a pond. And he finally sent it to me. So I finally did it. And I said, look, it's like pebbles hitting a pond, one ripple at a time. More and more ripples will turn into a tsunami and we will take this country back. And that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. All of us doing all the things. And I think that was one of the reasons I knew that you would be the perfect guest to have on because you're very inspirational. That's what I said when I had you sit down. And that's why we kind of asked a lot of the questions we did, because I knew you could inspire folks to throw their pebbles in the water so that they could keep showing up. I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time, sharing all your stories, inspiring others. I appreciate you so much. And I'm glad you sat down with me today and took the time. I know how busy you are, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Taryn, thanks for having me. Thanks for working with me. Thanks for being a partner in this, an ally in this. It's important. Nobody can win anything alone, and it's who you choose to work with and surround yourself with. And one of the things that my management style has always been to surround myself with people way smarter than me, so that I become the dumbest person in the room. And
I
having
share that
folks
view.
like your team help help in ways that I couldn't possibly do alone, because we're all in this fight together. So I appreciate that. And hey, I didn't swear once. I don't think.
I unbelievable. Neither did I. I'm actually so proud of us. I can't believe we didn't swear. I mean, I feel like it just end in some kind of like, lots and lots of swears right in a row.
One more cheap plug for Pennsylvania.
Yay,
Says,
love it.
Done.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for listening to Political Trail Mix. Make sure to follow and review wherever you get your podcasts and stay connected with me on Instagram and YouTube. Let's keep this conversation going.